What's up YouTube, this is Galactic God and welcome to another episode of Yugioh Q A. Now first up, I've got a video question from Brian Blair 09.
Hello Galactic God, this is Brian Blair 09. I want to ask you a question. My question is, if Yugi was a real person, what deck would he play? What do you think, what deck would he play? I posted a video like this on my channel, got some interesting answers, and I want to hear yours. Thanks Galactic God, have a good one.
Well, I guess the only real answer to this question could possibly be that Yugi would use a spellcaster deck, or at least a spellcaster variant of some degree. Now they have the new spell book or prophecy monsters, and if Yugi was a real person, I guess he might try and dabble into something like that. He would use some kind of crazy, super combolicious deck, and probably have a new Slifer the Sky Dragon tech in as well. And the next question comes from 4Proxy32011, and he asks, how long did it take until people started watching you? I kind of get asked this a lot. Basically, it means how long did it take till my channel started growing. And I kind of went back through, my channel logs and everything, and figured out, exactly how many subs I got and when I got them, because that's probably the easiest way to kind of base when people started watching me is my sub count. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of look at this real fast. My channel started on February 8th, 2011, or at least that's when I posted my first YugiTube video, if you will. Before that, my channel was open. I just was using it, to watch YouTube videos. I never actually posted anything on it. But February 8th, 2011 was when I first posted any kind of video, and it was Yu-Gi-Oh related. So that's kind of when I consider my channel starting, or at least my YugiTube channel. On April 22nd, 2011, I got my first 100 subs, which was really cool. I made a video about it. I was super excited. So that was about 2.5 months into my channel. On August 26th, I reached 1,000 subscribers, which was really good. It was about 6.5 months after I had reached 100. And then on April 2nd, 2012 is when I reached my 5,000 mark. So that was about 10 months later, really. I think that's when my channel really started to grow and become, its own. Billy Bob 10 asks, we should see your kid. You should duel him. And I actually did make a video, not a dueling video, with my son. Hopefully, you guys might see that at some point soon. I didn't really like the way it came out too much, so we might refilm certain aspects of it. It's kind of like a funny little video. We'll probably see that sometime in the near future. Fortunately, I can't really make a dueling video with him. He doesn't play Yu-Gi-Oh! He's kind of obsessed with Pokemon right now. Against my better judgment, I just can't get him into Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know what the heck's wrong with me. He's in a house full of Yu-Gi-Oh! Everywhere, and he's like, I don't want Yu-Gi-Oh! I want Pokemon. Pokemon's where it's at, Dad. And I was like, oh my God, how am I raising you wrong? So essentially, I've tried to teach him, how to play and this and that, but he just does not seem interested. So if I was to have an actual duel match with him now, it'd be like a friggin' slaughter of the, utmost proportion. So maybe in the near future, if I can get him, into Yu-Gi-Oh! I can, finally have a duel video with him. The Shadow Gamer asks, if you could put one card on the ban list and never take it off, what would it be? Final Countdown. Alright, the next question comes from Brent Cheskowich. I hope I didn't mutilate your last name, sir. And he basically asks, do you play any other TCG, such as like Cardfight Vanguard or Magic or anything like that? And really, I do not. I've kind of dabbled in the past with other ones, but I never really got serious about them. When Versus originally came out, I picked up some of that, but you guys see how that kind of turned out. Versus is gone, essentially. I picked up the World of Warcraft TCG when it came out. A lot of my buddies were super into that game, when it first, was released by Upper Deck and everything. And I picked up a lot of stuff then, but, eventually I ended up just giving all my cards to my friends because I wasn't really passionate about it, and I was only really playing it because my buddies were playing it. A lot of my friends are now into, Magic the Gathering. They've kind of dropped Yu-Gi-Oh! And kind of converted over to that. I really have no desire to do that. Yugi is kind of, or my card game of choice, I guess you could say. And it's kind of like where I like to say, Cardfight Vanguard, I don't really know much about. All I've done is, really seen people kind of play it, and I've seen the cards. The cards look really cool. Maybe if I ever get enough cash that I can invest into another game, I guess it's a possibility that I could look into Cardfight Vanguard. But it's too new for my taste. It doesn't have enough longevity to make me think that it's going to last. So I don't really like to jump into any of the ones that are too new. Maybe someday I'll try, Magic the Gathering, I don't know. Probably not though. Mr. CDC 1997 asks, do you think older archetypes such as like Gravekeepers, etc. deserve more support? And they do. I don't understand why, older decks or older archetypes never get any kind of support. Very, very seldom does Konami give out support for some of these older archetypes. Once in a blue moon, maybe once every few years, if that, you'll see new support for Harpy Lady and Amazoness and Gravekeeper and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that stuff is so far and few between that it's really kind of sad. I always honestly thought that you have your 80 cards or so or whatever it was that came from the OCG, and then they usually give us 10 TCG exclusives and then 10 previous OCG exclusives that we didn't have before. And when they do that, I always think like, well, why don't they just devote like 5 of the TCG exclusives every set, to revisiting one of the old archetypes? Why not give us 5 cards every set for new support for an old theme? Like, why not get 5 new Volcanic support cards? Why not get 5 new Crystal Beast support cards? Or Destiny Hero? Or something like that. Something that we just have not. Evil Hero, Cloudian, Aliens, anything, that would help support, the decks, and update them a little bit. Because essentially, these older decks, there's really only so many ways you can play them because they don't release any kind of new support cards for them. And since they don't do that, you're stuck, like Glad Beast, where Glad Beast did get a little bit new support a little while back, but it really wasn't enough. I mean, they really only got one new card that they could add to their arsenal, and it's Glad Beasts are still kind of played the exact same way they were played, 4 years ago or something like that. There really hasn't been a change in the way that, a Glad Beasts deck is really constructed. And I think adding new cards to, old archetypes could, make people, come up with some new innovations on how to play the deck. And I would like to see some more of that, but unfortunately we don't get a lot of support for older archetypes. Jared Dragon 999 asks, what do you think of number 50 Blackhorn? I think it's going to be a great card. I can't wait to get it. It should probably find a place in just about everybody's extra deck, or at least everybody that's running any kind of level 4 monsters. They can get it out. It's going to be a good, easy answer to cards like Zen Mains and Gachi Gachi and everything like that a lot of people have already kind of discussed in different videos across YugiTube. But overall, I'm looking very, very forward to seeing this card and getting it and putting it in my extra deck and, just having it as another tool that we can use. Tech Karadin 18. Wow, I feel like I mutilated that name too. He asks, what do you think of lesser played decks in Yu-Gi-Oh? Decks like Phantom Beast, Alien, and all these other kind of decks. And would I ever do a deck profile on them? And essentially, I do love the tier 2, the tier 3 decks. Obviously, I would not take those to like a YCS or a regional or something like that. But I mean, taking them down to locals or building the decks and playing them against your buddies, or even playing them on DN, I think is a really good, fun way. Unfortunately, in Yu-Gi-Oh, though, Konami tries to deny it, there are kind of tier levels to the decks, and most of the decks are really low tier, below tier 2. And, although that may be sad, that doesn't mean that they're not fun to play, that they're not, fun to dabble with. And I have got quite a number of kind of tier 2 and lower deck profiles up on my deck. I mean, there is an Alien deck profile up there somewhere. It's from a long time ago. Hopefully maybe I can revisit that deck and, kind of revamp it a little bit. But like I was saying earlier, there's really only so many ways you can make some of the older archetypes. So there's really only so much you can do with it. Joey 2090 asks, what do you do with all the bulk commons? Essentially, I made a Yugi Chat video a long time ago kind of tackling this subject, but I do get asked this quite a bit. What do I do with all my commons that I get from the cases? And essentially, we sell those too. They kind of go into our profit margin for the case. Now, a lot of people think that you can only make money off of Yu-Gi-Oh from the holographic cards, and that is far from true. Essentially, what we do with the commons, I didn't want to do kind of like bulk common sales, which is what you kind of see a lot from people who buy cases. You'll go to like YouTube or something, you'll see like, oh, a set of 100 random commons for so many dollars or something like that. We organize them into archetypes. So like in the newest set, Return of the Duelist, we had, Madolche, Prophecy, Heroic, the Girgia, and all this kind of, sub-new archetypes that have come out. And we organize all the commons and the rares into these different archetypes. And then we make decks out of the, the commons and the rares. and we kind of, whatever we don't have enough of, we kind of use what we call like the filler cards, which is the spell traps or monsters that can essentially kind of go into any deck. They don't really fall into an archetype, and they just have kind of a basic effect. And we kind of fill in the missing 40 card slots with those, and then we put those up on eBay. So if you wanted to get kind of a starter deck version of a Prophecy deck or a Madolche deck, you can go onto my eBay page and you can kind of find a Prophecy or a Roic or Madolche or even, you know, Insector or whatever I have up there. And essentially it's filled with all the basic commons that you can get from that archetype, and then some of the rares and stuff too. And then I have other kind of decks up there which I call Tournament Go, but they're probably more like a structure deck, or at least, you know, Konami's version of a structure deck. So you get, you know, all those core cards, plus you get a little bit of the staple cards, and then very few of the filler cards. And that's kind of what we do with our bulk commons. We just kind of, you know, make decks out of them and then sell those decks up on eBay, and just another way for us to make profit out of the cases that we buy. And that's kind of what we do with all the bulk commons. Okay, so that's going to do it for this Q&A episode. If you guys have a question you'd like me to answer in a future episode, remember to leave it in the comment section below. Also, if you guys could, leave me a video response question to this video, and I will play that before I answer the question like I did in this video in the next Q&A segment. And I guess that's it for now. This is GalacticGod.